Hey, folks, welcome to InTheMoneyStocks.com's intraday analysis video, brought to you by the creators of proprietary price, pattern, and time methodology. Learn the PPT strategies and profit for life. Let's get into this action today on this Tuesday, November 18th, 2014. Markets are trading up across the board today. This is the first day in quite some time we've seen some decent gains on the market. If you look at yesterday, the day before, last Friday, and so forth, we really had a flat market. S&P was up a fractional amount. Same thing with the Dow and NASDAQ. And the markets were just treading water. But today we got a buy program right at the start of the day. The markets ripped higher. You can see a small gap higher. 1, 2, 3, and 4 bars up. From that point on, we had a little bit of a pullback and have just kind of gone into float mode since then. But again, SPY is up about 0.5%, which again equates to 0.5% on the S&P 500. Dow is up a little bit less, about 0.25%. NASDAQ is up a little bit more, about 0.2%. All right, so what's driving this market today? Well, bottom line is the markets were able to shrug off the recession news out of Japan. Japan shrugged it off last night as well. Basically, the Japanese government came out and said, listen, we're going to cancel the tax increase that we were going to do. We're going to redo a vote. We're going to have a new election. And that was very bullish news for the Japanese markets there, especially the cancellation of the future tax hike. All right, so right off the bat, the Japanese markets rallied back almost as much as they had dropped the previous day on the recession news, and all of a sudden we find ourselves in a rallying situation on the S&P 500 and on the U.S. markets as well. So again, that was the main catalyst. You could also talk about a few other catalysts like oil. Oil is dropping back down today, and oil actually going down right now is a small positive for the markets because again, it's buoying the transports up. People think that it's going to be a stimulus essentially for the markets. So lower oil, even though it drags down the oil stocks, for the most part, the rest of the market is getting a bit up on it. Okay, if we look at individual stocks out there, Apple up very nicely today, making a new high. It's interesting because it's kind of pierced the high, but at the same time, it's stalling right here at the all-time high from yesterday at around the 115 level. But again, that short term is a little bit of a high level. And again, it is consolidating now, may make a move up later today. And again, the markets right now, to me, are looking like they're setting up for potentially more upside later today. And I've just been flat out, listen, is the market extended? Yes. Is it a little on the ridiculous side? Yes. But when it comes down to it, this market can go higher and has been going higher. So we have to be realists in that respect, is that markets don't necessarily go by logic or extension moves. Sometimes they can get overextended, which we have now. But again, doesn't mean it's going to end today, doesn't mean it's going to end tomorrow or next week or next month. So again, as long as the money flow from global pictures are still finding a home in the United States, there's money to be buying the market, and that ultimately pushes the markets up. One stock taking a beating today, but we profited from it. Home Depot. Home Depot, I had options on this. I took about a 40% gain on my options on Home Depot. So again, nice job for those of you that had that options trade in the options alerts here at InTheMoneyStocks.com. And again, the beauty of it is the low of the day was so easy to call. This is where we sold the options, guys. Take a look at this pivot low right here. Pivot low, where did it go to? And that's where I unloaded my options, which actually at that point were basically at the highs, and they haven't seen those highs again since we unloaded them. So that was really a nice effort and good successful trade on Home Depot. Now there are a few other options out there, or a few other stocks out there that warrant us taking a look at. All right, number one of the stronger indices out there is the semiconductors. Intel is having a very nice day today. That's a good move on Intel, 1.66%, so very strong move on that stock. On the other hand, I have to say, I think Facebook, this is the chart of Facebook, only up 25 cents today. And look at the daily chart, really starting to form a bearish consolidation pattern here underneath the moving averages. I have to believe whenever the markets do pull back, as long as this pattern's still intact, Facebook's going to go to this pivot low here and then the 200 MA. So I think this is going all the way down to about $69 when all is said and done. Okay, so that's going to be interesting as well. I put out a new swing trade alert in the research center via the hot charts and alerts, guys. I'm not going to reveal it here, but again, there's a new one that I put out today that looks promising. It's a long play on a stock, and the stock looks ready to rock and roll. It's already upticking off of the level we bought at, and again, looks like it could be literally a 30, 40, 50% winner in the coming weeks. So again, if my speculation is correct, you should see a very solid gain on that stock in the coming days and weeks. A couple other stocks out there that warrant a little bit of notice. Well, let's take a look at the commodities out there. So the dollar, number one, the dollar is down pretty sharply. I've been bearish on the dollar ever since we got this candle right here. So again, wide range reversal candle, had a little bit of a bounce back yesterday, now right back down today. So the dollar is weaker. We're seeing gold respond with a little bit of upside, up about 86 cents. Gold is continuing to kind of hit into resistance here. You have a gap fill here. You have this pivot low. You have the 20 MA. But again, it's very resilient. Gold is actually probably the strongest metal out there right now. Silver is a little bit on the weaker side today, basically flat. But still, I like this chart. Consolidating right here, going sideways, ultimately has a good chance to break higher. And I think it's going to go to this 16 and change level before it starts to really stall out. All right, oil, I mentioned oil is down a little bit today. And you can see the USO is down about 39 cents on the day, 1.3%, and again, that's representative of oil. One thing to note, though, see this low pivot down here from about, I think this is last Thursday. So the Thursday low right here, and you got your reversal on Friday. So as long as you do not close below this low from Thursday, this is still technically a potentially inside bar move, which could lead to upside. And I am still bullish on oil as long as it doesn't take out that low on a closing basis. If it does, then I'm obviously moving to the other side, and I'll expect more downside. Okay, so we'll continue to watch that. Let me just take a look at a couple other stocks out there. We looked at Facebook. Let's take a look at JP Morgan Chase. JPM up about 36 cents. JPM opened into the 20 MA off of a beautiful pullback, so it shouldn't be a surprise you're getting a little bit of a bid here. The question is, do we head up to gap fill here, which is going to be your first major resistance? Actually, that's not true. You have a little bit of resistance right here as well, but this is more of a minor level. This is your first major. And if we get there, do we break higher, or is this just the beginning of a bearish pattern that's going to ultimately lead to more downside? And that is something we'll be watching very closely. We are seeing the transports a little bit higher today, the biotech index a little bit higher as well. One thing that I'm keeping my eye on is the IWM, which is the Russell ETF. And again, IWM's up about 1% on the day, so it is stronger than the overall market and has started to float back up. So we've seen the last 3 days here, IWM has come down pretty drastically. This is the first day it's getting a bounce. So what we're going to follow in the next day or so is whether or not this continues to move up and is stronger than the markets. If it isn't and it continues to be weaker, I think it's an indicator that the markets are due for a pullback. I do believe the IWM is a great leading indicator. All right, it's about a week early, week and a half early, so we'll have to see again how this plays out. But right now, again, I'm watching very curiously to see how IWM ends today and performs tomorrow. Now, this week is options expiration, and I'm curious again to see the options movement here, mainly because there has been a lot of upside and a lot of calls are deeply in the money at this point, and you have to wonder if the institutions are willing to pay those out. All right, remember, the institutions are the majority of the people. They're the majority of sellers of options. The retail investors, the majority of the buyers of options. So the retail investor usually doesn't make a lot of money on options as it's a rigged game. So in this situation, I'm very curious to see if they try to whip the market back in a little bit just to kind of get a little of that money back since, again, the institutions stand to lose a lot of money by this drastic move up we've seen lately. Okay? All right, guys. On that note, I'm going to step aside. As always, appreciate you being avid watchers of this video. Come join us at InTheMoneyStocks.com. We'll teach you how to make money in this market, in any market. Ultimately, it's price, pattern, and time. If you learn that, you learn discipline. The sky's the limit, really. So come join us at InTheMoneyStocks.com. Take care, guys.